You guessed it, we're talking about the NFL to start this show off, and I think I've talked about this ad nauseum. At least I feel like I've talked about this ad nauseum. So, let me start with this. This whole NFL thing is all started because our president is reckless on Twitter, right? And this is how we got here, right? We got here because this president is reckless on Twitter, and he's creating a smokescreen from the fact that he is a horrible president. And that's why we're here today. And let me be very clear. This has nothing to do with the flag, the national anthem, or our veterans. It actually is rather the opposite. So what our veterans do is our veterans each and every day fight for our rights to protest and fight for our rights to express the First Amendment, fight for our rights to bear arms, whether we agree with that right or not, fight for our right for due process, and they fight for our rights to be American. And that's exactly what Colin Kaepernick and these NFL players have been doing, expressing their right. Colin Kaepernick, in an interview I want to give you the date that he did this because this is very, very important. On September 1st, 2016, here's what Colin Kaepernick said to the USA Today, and I want to read this exactly as he said it so people aren't confused, because people are trying to say a lot of things, a lot of negative comments being said about Colin, and there's a lot of negative arguments being said about a lot of NFL players who have decided to kneel or sit during the national anthem. So I'm going to read this and we're going to talk about it, but I want to read this as it is. I'm putting my glasses on and everything, America. The media painted this as an anti-American, anti-man and woman of the military, and that isn't the case. I realized that men and women of the military go out and sacrifice their lives and put themselves in harm's way for my freedom of speech and my freedom in this country, and my freedom to take a seat or to kneel. So I have the utmost respect for them. I think what I did was taken out of context and spun a different way. I have been very blessed. That's what he says. To be in this position, to be able to make the kind of money that I do, and I have to help these people. I have to help these communities. It's not right that they're not in the position to succeed or given the opportunity to succeed. This is what Colin Kaepernick says in an interview to the USA Today. He's not trying to be anti-American. This is not about the United States flag. This fight is about fighting for racial injustice. Now let me be very clear with you, because people want, and what you've seen, folks on the right and people who are against Colin Kaepernick and people who are against these players, including the President of the United States, try to do is they're not using a dog whistle. They're using a bullhorn, right, to activate racism. And they're trying to say, oh, this is wrong. Oh, they shouldn't be doing this. Oh, this is anti-American. Racial injustice and systematic racism exists in this country. You don't have to take my word for it. Just look, the proof is in the pudding. You can look at cases like Eric Garner, who was choked to death on tape, and yet still nobody has gone to jail. Look at the case of Alton Sterling, a gun owner in the state of Minnesota who was shot and killed, and yet nobody has gone to jail. And these cases, there's a litany of these cases. You can look at Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old with a toy gun who was shot by police, and yet nobody has gone to jail. You could look at Justice Department consent decrees on the cities of Baltimore, the cities of New York, the cities of St. Louis, the cities of Los Angeles, the cities of Miami, where the Justice Department, career lawyers, of the Justice Department have found patterns and practices of bigotry and biases in police departments across this country that has led to the use of excessive force. And yet nobody has been punished, yet nothing has changed, yet nobody has gone to jail. America, we are a broken country, and we have a president that refuses to admit it. So here's what we've got to do, America. We have got to stand up, and we have got to fight back against racial injustice. And yes, it's not popular. Yes, people don't like it, but let me tell you something. A Gallup poll from 1963 found the favorability rate of Martin Luther King to be 41%. Oddly enough, that's the same favorability rating for these NFL players who have chosen to take a knee. Protesting is rarely ever popular, but protesting and expressing our First Amendment right is the only way we will create change. And so I asked my fellow colleagues on the right, how would you like us to protest? When we shut down streets, you say that we're violent. When Black Lives Matter have die-ins, you call them terrorist organizations. When they march in the streets, you say they're disrupting normal business function. So how would you like us to express our First Amendment right? Tell us so we know how we should not offend you with our protest. Because clearly, every method that we have used to express our discontent with racial injustice in this country has somehow offended you. When we speak out against what happened to Eric Garner, you said we were anti-police and we were anti-law and order, and that was offensive. When we spoke out against the fact that Laquan McDonald was shot 16 times by police in Chicago, and it was covered up by the mayor, and we stared at the police in silence, you found that to be offensive. So tell us, how would you like us to protest and express our First Amendment right so we don't offend you? Because clearly, folks with guns walking down the streets, or folks with tiki torches walking down an American city, yelling blood and soil and down with the Jews isn't offensive. That's just violence on many sides. Or that's good people on many sides. So you tell us how we won't offend you so we will change our protesting tactics to please you. But America, let me tell you this. If we truly want racial justice in this country, then it's prudent upon all of us who have common sense to stand up with these NFL players and say we have their backs. Because if not, our democracy is in jeopardy.